Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Quinten Krzysko, Samir Patel, Sunny Verma, and the one and only Ron Luce. Bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
Well, boys, here we are. It's over. The fairy tale ended. We had our chances. The Bears had their moments in that game, down to the last minute, down and beyond the last minute, into overtime, but they couldn't quite overcome largely themselves, which almost is a, I don't know, pseudo good feeling to me that they hung in there with the Super Bowl like favorites, but it still stings because they could have won this one. My name is Quinten Krzysko. I am joined by Samir Patel and Sunny Verma. Starting with Samir, how are you gentlemen doing this evening?
Oh, what a roller coaster, huh? It's hard to believe that this is the end of the season, but that game was basically I feel like a lot of the Bears season in a microcosm of the ups and downs, the joys, the frustrations. It was everything, man. And like you said, Q, it was weird that they kind of got in their own way a little bit. It's a game of woulda, coulda, shouldas, and obviously this team will look a lot different next year. But I do think the Bears, particularly the coaching and some of the play calling and the drops were really undid the Bears in this one. But I got to tip the hat to the team. They fought hard. Caleb Williams, you think he can't top another throw, and then he does something totally ridiculous, and you're just at the edge of your seat. So it's been a great season. Really going to look forward to next year.
Yeah, every game, something that it's just like, I've never seen that before. But Sonny, what are your thoughts coming out of this one?
Yes, I'm similar to what Samir is saying. You knew with the run that we've been on, like at some point, ball was just not going to bounce our way. So it's one of those where, coming into this game, the Chicago Bears were the biggest home underdog in this round in playoff history, right? And so if nothing else, and I don't know about you guys, but I was perusing social media immediately after the game and really in that fourth quarter. And a lot of it was acknowledgement from opposing fan bases saying, you know what, Caleb is that guy. Caleb is him. And maybe this is just a dose of copium or whatever it was, but coming into this year, Q, me, you, and Ron, we talked about this in all the season previews and the shows leading up to the season. My hope for this season was to find out and to confirm if Caleb was that guy. And now, after tonight, not only do I know that, I mean, I knew that, a couple of months ago at this point, but in a way, of course, I'm sad that the season is over. But I'm also, there's a smile on my face seeing that not just me that knows that Caleb is him, but the national narrative has become, hey, this kid is special. And again, to lose it that way, again, that spread was 4.5, at least when I last saw it right before the game, about 20 minutes before the game started. You weren't beaten down, right? You belonged on the same field as this Los Angeles Rams team. And as you said, a lot of the reasons we lost were self-inflicted. And we're going to talk about it later. I don't know if Ben had the best game himself either today. And you were still right there. You took them to overtime. And, it's just, I'm upset, but, it's one of those where I already can't wait till next season.
Yeah, us as Bears fans, the Bears as a team, it's okay to be down, but you're not out. You're in for the first time in a long time. We are entering the offseason going, we are in this thing. It is time to be invested in what the Bears are doing throughout the whole offseason into each season coming forward, as long as Caleb Williams is their quarterback. I titled this episode, it's the end of the beginning, right? Because this is just year one. This is just the start. We got the glimpse of what Ben Johnson's offense is this year. not the full palette of it, just the start of it. And there's a lot to be excited about within that. But speaking of Ben Johnson, I mean, did you guys feel like there were some, Sunny, you got into it a little bit here, so I'll toss this to you first. There were some questionable moments from him in this game?
I mean, I just think, and again, my mood might change after I rewatch this game, and I watched that, all 22. But everything I loved about Ben Johnson all season long, his aggressive nature, just trying to. He understands. I think he understood. The Rams are a really good football team, and so maybe field goals aren't going to beat the LA Rams. But at some point, when you just think of like if you had converted just one of those fourth down attempts to one field goal, this game might have been over. And so I just don't know. It's not just that, but on third down, if you're going to go for it on fourth down, maybe do a play action once or twice. Keep the Rams on their toes a little bit, because to me, I just don't think he was maybe too aggressive on the fourth downs in trying to go for it in the red zone, whereas opposed, I think he got way too conservative, thinking, hey, the running game is working, almost running the same play. I feel like I saw it 2 or 3 times, on third down, even though you knew on fourth down you were going to do the same thing. I can understand on fourth down. You want to give it to Swift or Monangai, whatever, but maybe you've been doing the same thing all game long. Maybe at some point in the third quarter, try the play action, just see if you can get something else to work. I think that's where my frustrations with Ben came in today.
Yeah. Samir, what did you think?
I kind of agree with Sunny. I felt like the going for it on fourth down was aggressive, but the calls that he made were conservative. So it was like a conservative approach to an aggressive play style. And I'm always the first one that's guilty of like when he tries to do cute things and it's like 4th and 1 in other games. I'm like, just give it to Monangai. He'll get you a yard, right? I'm the first one yelling that at the TV. And he tried to do that a bunch of times. But after a little while, it's clear it wasn't working. I mean, Collinsworth even pointed out how often they were running towards Darnell right side. Tooney, he did his best, I think, and you can probably talk more about this, Q, at left tackle, but I did see him get beat inside on some runs. I don't know if that side held up nearly as well as they probably could have. Maybe that's part of it. But I do wish he puts the ball in Caleb's hands more, especially giving him the run pass option, because Caleb's got some wheels, man. And we saw that. And I'd love on 3rd and 1s, if you know you're going to go for it, just run a little boot, right? Give Caleb the option to toss it or to try to run and pick up the first. And then if you don't get it, now you can, try to pound it with Monangai in a formation that just haven't seen the play before.
Yeah, I do wonder if we're going to get more read option stuff and RPOs within this offense next year, if that's on the table at all, because it is something that we've seen Caleb excel at in the past and just adds another variable to the Bears offense, something I would love to see some of today in those short yardage situations. But I don't think that they felt great about many of them, especially with 2 offensive linemen playing new spots. I think that cuts down the run playbook a decent chunk. But with Tooney at left tackle instead of left guard, I think Tooney held up great in pass pro, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the limitations, and this.
Did we lose Q?
Is that just Q?
Okay, I got cut out there.
Okay, you're back.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
I think.
Yep. Well, I mean, I kind of agree though with what Q is probably trying to get at. Is the pass pro with Tooney seemed better than the run protection? Is that what you kind of saw too, Sonny?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. Like I didn't quite pay as much attention in the second half, but it was pretty much the only thing I was watching early in that first half. Q, you are back, just to let you know, but I'll finish my thought real quick. Once I saw that Tooney, and maybe I should have known this coming in, that he could hold his own, that no longer really became a concern of mine. It was one of those where I can finally, let's look elsewhere. And, he did his job. Like Ben Johnson had a really tough, difficult decision to make. He made it very early. They were very aggressive. Like it didn't seem like they wavered very much. And I think, reflecting on it, I don't think they made the wrong choice.
So I'll get back to my point about Tooney. Hopefully I don't get cut out again this time as I'm talking about it. But with Tooney, I mean, right, shorter arms, like we
Q, you're gone again.
Q is basically the Bears' short yardage game, essentially.
Yikes.
He lines up for it, and it just is not executing the way he wants it to.
It's also freezing at like the perfect Q faces. Q,
Yeah, that's good.
You're back.
That's good.
You just,
Maybe just speak in
Toonie.
caveman just to get the point across.
Maybe I just gotta stop saying Joe Tooney. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he doesn't have the authoritative run blocking aspect as much as just reaching his spot. But when you're reaching more athletic football players, the length starts to play in pretty heavily, and that length, like in the run game, really does start to matter at offensive tackle more than it does at offensive guard, where you're quickly into the guy versus a guy who's a lot more agile, a lot quicker on the edge, being able to avoid you. And I think that kind of showed in the run game some tonight. Oh, I got through it. Okay.
Nice work.
I don't know what's going on with my Ethernet cable that I've hooked up, but it keeps jumping between Wi-Fi and that. So like I'm if it happens again, I'm just going to unplug the cable. But either way, guys, I want to change up one of our segments tonight. Like we're going to do Nicest Man and Baddest Man, but instead of keys to victory, I want to go through keys to the offseason because this is a huge offseason for the Bears at this point. They're going to be one of the Super Bowl favorites going into next year.
What a weird thing to even hear, right? Like, you're right, though. You're absolutely right. Like, I mean, I don't know if you want me to start here, Q, but, I think it's clear. One of the most frustrating things, like my wife doesn't watch a lot of football, but, a lot of her questions were like, why can't they sack him? Like the defensive line, they got through with the blitzes, which we're going to talk about in one of the segments later. Dennis Allen have a day. But, I think we spent so much of our resources on the offensive side this past offseason. I think it's nice that we kind of know what we need to go after, which is the other side of the line. And, I'm aggressive. Or I hope Ryan Poles has a plan. I know he does. And I think if I can see Dennis Allen performing the way he did this year with the talent that he had I think they said on the broadcast, right? Like, they basically told him, these are your toys that you're going to play with this year. We're spending most of our resources on the offensive side. Well, this offseason belongs to Dennis Allen, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we'll save that for the segment once we get there. I just wanted to preface you guys there, and to be honest, I was still kind of catching my brain after being like, what is going on with my internet? But why don't we go ahead and get into our first segment here?
The Nicest Man.
All right, starting with Sunny. Who is the nicest man on the Chicago Bears in this game? The guy who, the Rams are going to take out for a beer later and say, like, you're my buddy. That was nice of you.
Again, there's two guys I have in mind, but the one I'm just going to go with Ben. Again, I praised Ben, and so in cases like today, I just noticed myself being very frustrated with him. I'm okay with it because I think he's going to learn from this experience, right? He's going to rewatch this game tape, and he's a first-year head coach. You can't ask him to bat 1,000 every single game plan. But for me, again, I think Samir, actually, you put it perfectly. I kind of, his play call or his decisions were aggressive, but the play calls were way too conservative. And to me, there's a lot of times this game where it was just driving me crazy.
Samir, where are you going?
Yeah, that's an excellent choice. I mean, I feel like DJ could be in there just for that last play, but I don't want to. He scored our touchdown. I don't want to pin this all on him. I'm actually going to go on the defensive side of the ball and go with Jalen Johnson. Might not be fair because I think he is playing hurt and he's gutting it out, but I think he had a rough game in terms of his coverage. He certainly lost contain there on Kyren Williams on that touchdown run in the fourth quarter. What's the fourth quarter? Maybe the end of the third. I can't remember. But he couldn't tackle him, lost contain. He just looks a step slow. I know I hate picking on the guy because I'm sure he's playing hurt, but he was very noticeably impacting the game in a negative way for the Bears tonight, I think.
Yeah, I think Jalen's a really strong pick here just because, I mean, he's playing hurt and all that, but there were multiple times where he failed to to set the contain edge
Yeah.
on the defense, got sucked in too deep, and then the guy was able to, the running back was able to get outside and turn the corner on him. Some of that's probably just his speed isn't where he wants it to be, and it's hard to adjust those angles that you're used to hitting versus and not really able to get anymore. But I think that's a strong pick as well. For me, I mean, this one's tough because
the nicest man is Q's internet.
Yes. I mean, this one's so tough. You can't even get it out.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Brutal. So where I'm going with mine is DJ Moore. He had one of the two touchdown catches in this game. He had some really nice catches as well, but in the biggest moment of the game when the ball came his way, he wasn't where he was supposed to be. And I believe Caleb deserves some blame on that pick just because it's ball's coming out of his hands. He needs to know where the guy is, but ultimately I think more falls on DJ, and a guy who has really been so up and down throughout the year. It's like there are times where you feel great about him, times where you feel like there's some questions here, and it's hard for me to sit here and say I feel good about him going into this offseason now after the way that game ended.
So I know you said that in our pregame show here that it could be DJ Moore's last pass target as a member of the Chicago Bears. Do you feel like either Rome or Luther is kind of, because DJ is still feels like that Iron Man player, right? Like he's still kind of that go-to guy. Do you feel like either of them, like Rome or Luther, are ready to step into that role? And if so, who would you peg for that?
I think that you're talking about Burden is your number one target next year. I think Rome looked awesome until the stress fracture, and then once the stress fracture his foot came to be, it was like this guy is not the same player anymore. But ultimately, I mean, I think Burden is your guy. You get, if you can get him more used to the playbook, better versed in the playbook, which we saw him getting better and better with throughout the year. I think he is going to be your primary target next year. Him and Loveland.
Yeah, I was going to say Loveland. I mean, Loveland already looks like a top 4 tight end next year. Obviously, he's not a wide receiver, but it looks like Caleb really does trust him. I do, I'm not so ready to dump DJ just for the same reason Samir kind of said. I feel like I jinxed Rome Q in one of our first bye week episodes where I talked about Rome being on pace to break the touchdown record for the Chicago Bears this year, and I don't think he got one ever since that episode. But, from that point on, I'm super excited about Luther Burden and his future. But I don't know can he make that aggressive of a leap in one offseason? He's certainly got the skill set. He's got the talent. But I definitely trust Loveland more. I think I'm more easy I'm more okay with the idea of DJ leaving because you're going to make Colston a little bit more of a focal point of the offense next year. But if you're talking strictly wide receivers, I don't know. It's kind of an embarrassment of riches. We have 3 really talented players, so just one that I think has established himself as a proven guy, and he's still pretty young. But DJ is going to be wanted by a lot of our potential trade partners this offseason, and so maybe it might just be best for both parties that he finds a different spot.
I think DJ did a lot because at mid-season, I think his trade value was the lowest it has ever been. I really think that you were sitting there going, this guy's struggling in a Ben Johnson offense where everything seems to be like starting to click, and he's the one piece that isn't working. I think over the back half of the season, that got rehabbed quite a bit. I'm interested to see what his trade value even looks like, though, because he's 28 years old. He's a guy who you do have questions about his route running consistency, his route running technique, how he wins on the field. It's never been a technician. It's always been more get the ball in his hands and see what he can do. So I'm not sure what you're really looking at for him from a trade perspective, but I'm interested to find that out.
I guess one thing that we can't overlook too is Jade Walker, right? Could step in and fill in as a 3 spot. He's been inactive unless one of those other 2 guys was hurt. So, even if you moved on from Moore, that kind of opens up the opportunity for Walker to kind of come in and show what he can do. And like, I'm not saying Walker can replace Moore, but he can at least, fill up that depth chart, right? If the 2 goes to the 1, the 3 goes to the 2, he can be your new 3. I think he's proven that at least. Hey, look, Q's back.
Yeah, I just pulled my Ethernet cable, so I'm all Wi-Fi now. Hopefully that fixes it. This is almost as frustrating as watching the end of that game. But anyways, do you guys want to get to our next segment here?
Let's do it.
The baddest man.
All right, tossing this one to Samir first because Sunny got the last one. Who is the baddest man for the Chicago Bears today?
I mean, I'm going to go with, I could go with 18. I probably will just go with 18. Sunny, I'll have you think of somebody else. Caleb Williams, I know he had 3 interceptions. And I know he maybe forced some of those throws. Probably could have been more than 3. But man, when the game's on the line, like this dude just makes plays. And there's nobody I'd rather have, back there to cheer for. He just makes the game so exhilarating, so exciting, and it's just more like baddest man. Now I'm just turning this into like a season referendum. Baddest man the whole season. Like, dude just is baller. That 4th down play this game, we thought it couldn't top, he couldn't top the previous 4th down play from the Packers game. And here he does, throws it 51 yards in the air, fading away or falling backwards. It just lofts it into Komet's arms. Like it was amazing. He had that 1st down run where he lowered that shoulder, picked up a couple extra yards. He's been a lot better with his cadence. He drew another offsides right earlier. He's getting pretty good at the QB sneaks. He knows the right gap to try to go into. I feel like he's just getting better at that smaller stuff. Now he did miss Luther on a sideline pass on what's like a 2nd and 4 or something, coming down there towards the end in the 4th quarter that he's got to pick up some of that stuff. But he balled out. I know he had the 3 picks, but I think some of those were miscommunication, with his teammates, the stuff that's got to get cleaned up. Certainly he can be better at that stuff too, but I'm going to go with Caleb.
Yeah, I think Caleb is, a really strong choice here because of the way the game ended. But I do have hesitancy in giving him this in my mind because it was very up and down this game. And,
Sure.
I do think he showed so much towards the end there. And man, that final pick is just, it's hard for me to put it on him. But Sunny, where are you going for your baddest man?
For me, it was just there was so much pressure on Darnell Wright today and that game plan that they put together. And he played so well that the TV crew couldn't stop talking about him. Mm-hmm. And I think Darnell, again, put their execution of that game plan is the reason that game was so close at the end. They put a lot of pressure on him. There's a lot of question marks on him coming into this season, but I think he's arguably, behind Caleb, I think one of the breakout names just because he was mentioned so often on the telecast today, just for the great job the right side of that offensive line seemingly did. Again, Q and Ron, when you guys take a look at it on Tuesday, you might see something else, but you're going to run the ball a lot in this sort of weather. You average 4.1%, 4.1 yards per game, but you can tell they trusted to go on that side more often than not. And at least in my vision, he came through.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent choice. I mean, I love any time an offensive lineman gets the call out there. And it's a great point. Like there was a lot of the Rams knew where the ball was going, and Darnell Wright had to make it work. Darnell Wright, in conjunction with Jonah Jackson, had to make that side of the offensive line really work on the ground game. For me, a part of me wants to go with Joe Thuney. I know I said the stuff I said about the run aspects, but like you knew that coming into this game. But he shut out Jared Verse. The guy who should have advantages over him. Very, very impressive from Joe Thuney. But ultimately, I mean, I have to go with a guy who's playing for a contract, guy who was all over the field tonight. It's Quinten Krzysko.
Yeah.
He was everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Had a sack, a tackle for loss, 2 passes defense, to QB hit, 14
one
total
drive.
tackles. Yeah. Yeah. Just, I mean, Quinten Krzysko made a strong case for his free agency in this game. And, like, I don't think he's going to be back with the Bears, but, like, he made a strong case to a lot of GMs around the league of, you know, this is what I can do. Maybe you want me on your team next year. All right, guys, let's get to this next, or actually, real quick, let's talk through baddest man of the season for the Bears. Samir, you already said Caleb is where that goes, but Sunny, is there anyone else that you throw that out to, baddest man for the Bears this year?
Honestly, we're repeating ourselves, because if I had to talk, if we're talking a full big picture of the season, I think it's Thuney, because of basically the impact he had on this offensive line, which was awful last year, which was a huge question mark coming into this year. And you can see that the success he's had at every stop, it's not a coincidence. It's not a mistake. He turned our offensive line, which was, again, one of the worst last year, this year, into one of the best offensive lines. And so for me, if there's one guy I'm just absolutely grateful for, it's him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Ben Johnson goes, I think Joe Thuney belongs there. Absolutely. The tone that he sets on the offensive line, the way that he, I talked this offseason to you plenty, Sonny, about the Bears need a veteran who comes in this room and demands respect and shows them this is what it takes to be a winning offensive line. And I wholeheartely believe Joe Thuney did that this year. So I agree very strongly with that one. I'm gonna go with Colson Loveland.
Sure.
The Colson Loveland has put the NFL on alert over the second half of the season into the playoffs of this looks like the next great tight end in this league in an offense that is really going to highlight him. I'm very excited to see what the future holds for Colson Loveland here. But let's go ahead and get to our final segment here.
Keys to victory.
So like I said at the top of the show, we're not going to quite do keys to victory, but keys to this offseason, where the Bears need to really focus their attention. If there's any particular move you think they need to make, if there's a particular position you think they need to get a difference maker at, or anything along those lines. And I'll throw this one to Sunny first.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of already hinted at mine earlier. I think you just need someone that can chase around that quarterback a little bit, not give them all day back there. Now, I mean, again, today you did a really good job, but a lot of that was because of the blitzes that Dennis Allen called. If you don't have to blitz, and if you can just rush them with your front four, I just think that that's kind of the missing piece of what makes this Bears team jump from, good / very good to legit Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the clear kind of missing piece. And we talked a little earlier in the show about how, the Bears focused a lot of attention this past offseason on offense, and they did. And Chris Collinsworth said that during the broadcast, right? They definitely did. But this is still, I believe, a top 5 paid defense in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel like it at all this year, really. So I think that in order to get that edge rusher, you're probably going to need to move some contracts around, some money around. You're going to need to do something because they are pretty strapped on like their cap spend. They can get flexible with it and they can move stuff, but like they will need to undertake some change in order to make anything happen at that edge spot. Samir, what are you thinking for the keys to the offseason here?
That's tough. First of all, I do want to give a shout out to Kyler Gordon as well. For Baddest, I think he had a lot of disruption there on those blitzes. I think he did a great job, and you can totally notice his presence, right, with Kyler, without Kyler. He's so good at blitzing, and secondary felt a little shaky at times for the Bears. I think Nashawn Wright was like just, hit or miss. But if he's CB5, right, and like let's say you get Kyler, you get Jalen, Terrell Smith. I'm still not really sure what we have in him, but he's there. Ja Frazier. I don't think that secondary is really that big of a problem. You have to replace Brisker because I don't think he's going to be back. But I think Gardner Johnson, I think if he wants that spot at a decent price, it's probably his. To be, if we're being honest, I think he can probably fill that in. I will have to agree with Sunny on the edge. That's definitely a glaring weakness. But like you said, Q, we've already tied up money in Grady Jarrett, Montez Sweat, Dio, and then they invested a third round pick in Shamar Turner. And so you kind of did invest there. I know Collinsworth said, "Oh, they focused on the offense this offseason, but not the defense." Like, no, they did. They were just so bad at it that people forget that they actually tried. So they'll have to try again. And that's why it's going to be hard, I think, for Ryan Poles, because to swing a free agent like Crosby or Myles Garrett, now you're going to put $70 million into an edge position if you don't move off of Dio or Sweat. And that's a lot of cap space to tie up in one position group where all three guys wouldn't even be on the field at the same time. So I think that they're going to have to get creative in the draft. I'd love for a Crosby. I just don't see it happening because of that. So.
Yeah, and ultimately there's a really strong point that someone made to me recently about Dio, where like there's a good chance he doesn't play next year because of his injury. He ruptured his Achilles in the back half of the season. Like that is a full 12+ month recovery. I think you always need to look at this offseason like Dio doesn't exist. He's just taking up space in your salary cap, which is where that also gets really interesting with Tez. Like, I feel like Booker has shown enough where you can say Booker is one of our starting edge rushers. Moving Montez Sweat could start to make sense from that standpoint if you're getting a guy like Crosby. If he can be had, I think you need to get Max Crosby. It's as simple as that to me. If he can be had, you need to get him. Because right now, like, you have a 3-year window before you have to pay Caleb Williams market value. You need to capitalize on it. You need to try. You need to do everything you can to get this incredible talent we've watched throughout this playoffs, throughout the tail end of the season. This guy that you can never quit a game on. You need to get a difference maker on the other side of the football. Right now, they don't have a difference maker on the other side of the football. And there's only really one way to get that guy, and it's via trade, because those guys don't become free agents. Those guys are – a rookie isn't going to be that guy, most likely. I think that's the glaring key to this offseason. If you can get a premier edge rusher, you need to do it. And go ahead.
No, you finish your thought. I was going to ask you about something else.
And if that means you need to move on from Montez Sweat,
yeah,
so be it. Because he's a good football player. He's not the difference-making edge you need.
What about left tackle? Do you think that's a need going in? Because Ozzy's injury, I read some things that it could be the whole year. And do they trust Theo or Braxton to be a starting left tackle going into the season? What do you think about left tackle as a need for the Bears next year?
So that is my key. Like, that is where I was.
Sorry, I stole your thunder.
Oh, no, you're good.
All right, go ahead.
Beautiful transition. My key is to not be complacent at left tackle. If Ozzy didn't get hurt, I'd be much more okay going into next year, maybe get a little competition behind him, but like, let him grow, let him attack an off season of improving his athleticism and see where that takes you, because I think it was manageable enough for a lot of this year. Because he got hurt, I can't expect real improvement from him next year. I can only expect him to be the same player we saw this year, which whenever you do get him back next year, I don't know if that's enough, So like, I don't think you can be complacent at left tackle. You need to try to attack it with obtaining a starter somehow there, in my mind.
That's rough. I mean, two of the positions you're going to have to go after are edge and left tackle.
Yeah,
two of the most cost-intensive positions out there anyway. It's not like teams are clamoring to get rid of talent at those positions either.
It's a strong draft for those positions, though. We probably haven't started that analysis yet, Q. But I think I don't know, edge and offensive linemen, I guess. I don't know about tackle specifically, but I think it's a good draft for those positions.
I'm also not not necessarily opposed to the idea of Darnell Wright at left tackle. It's a lot easier to find a right tackle than a left tackle. Darnell Wright has all the ability in the world. I don't have many, like, you look at the athletic feats this guy can achieve. I think he'll be just fine moving to left tackle. That's just my opinion, which, is also like just an opinion. It's hard to, there's no real facts you can base that on. But to me, I look at the way that he grew this year under better coaching than he's ever had in his career. And I'm like, okay, this guy could play left if you needed him to. And for him, he's coming up on a payday after next year. He might want to move to left tackle. He might say, hey, that can get me an extra 5-10 mil a year. Yeah, let's do it. Let's give it a try. I truly think that like if they're not married to Ozzie at left tackle, which I don't think they should be, I think that's truly the play this offseason still. You put Darnell Wright at left tackle, and then Ozzie can play right tackle next year if he's good, or you can bring in better competition for right tackle. They're just a lot easier to find on the market.
So that's what I was going to ask you. So let's say they move Darnell to left tackle. Is there anybody, we shouldn't count Ozzie. Let's just pretend he's not on the team next year, right? Similar to Dio. Between Theo and Braxton, do you feel comfortable with either of them starting the season as right tackle, or would you say we need a third-party person to come in?
Well, I don't think Braxton's back because he's a free agent after this season.
Okay.
And I don't see them re-signing him.
Yeah.
Theo, I think you want Theo being a primary backup.
Trying to catch passes?
I don't love that. I didn't
love that. Did not love that.
But I think the staff loves Theo, and I think Theo offers a real upside to your roster of next year when you have UDFAs come in. All of them are looking at that and saying they will reward you on this roster for coming in and working your ass off. If you can find a role, they will make it clear that they will accept you here. I do think that is valuable in the NFL locker room to have a guy like that, who's essentially just a company guy at the end of the day because they gave him his shot. I think that breeds success within the UDFA market, the low draft pick market. So I do think that is something that they want to have around on this roster, and I think there's good reason to. I think he's a guy who can jump in and you can survive with at tackle, and I do think there's upside for him at guard as well. But with all that being said, let's run through some of these comments here, which we appreciate you Bears fans in the comments. We are getting littered with salty Green Bay fans in here.
Salty, so much salt.
It's insane. I wonder if Packers podcasts get this level of vitriol on their playoff losses from Bears fans, but yeah, it's hysterical. But so we have Neil here saying we had it. The drops, 3 turnovers, and bad short yardage run game was the death of us. I think that sums it up pretty well. Eric in here, just run the freaking ball. Honestly, they're borderline field goal range already. You do wonder if they weren't trying to go pass downfield, if that might have changed things. Hawk fan for life in here saying that he's gutted for Bears fans, but that the Bears are going to be problems for years to come. Love to see that kind of respect coming in the comments. Jedediah saying great game, great season, not even upset after the loss, looking forward to the future. Show to Cubs in here saying that DJ gutted out a lot, especially in these big games. He was banged up almost every game. He's really only disappointed with Roma, the wide receivers, huge because of his huge drops in this game and all year, even though he was a Rome guy. I think that's a great point. DJ is clearly not right physically, but I still end up at the point of like, you're right. You're either right or you're not right. There's no in between when it comes to effort on a route, which is black and white, but I think that's the way the coaches would look at it. Then Jedediah again saying the secondary for Chicago was playing ball all game. They had a great day today. He also says that Ben Johnson should be the baddest man for the year, which, hey, Ben Johnson came in and set a culture, that's something haven't seen in Chicago in a long time. Go ahead, Samir.
I was going to say, Dennis Allen, let's talk a little bit about him.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson I feel like he's got a lot of the players that he kind of wants on this offense. His footprint's there, right? Or handprint, whatever print you want to call it. For Dennis Allen, how many of these defensive players currently that are starting for him do you think fit that mold? Or how much of that turnover are we going to see with more of like his style of guys coming into next year? Because I don't see a lot of turnover on the offense. Like you said, maybe DJ, maybe a left tackle. It's very minute stuff. But on the defense, I could see half the guys, half the starters maybe not being there, right? Maybe five starters not being there, something like that. How many of those guys do you guys think are current Dennis Allen type players? And how much of an overhaul do you think we'll see there?
Sonny, do you want to give
no, I'm going to hand this one right over to you. This is right in your wheelhouse.
Okay. So, I mean, I think Tez fits. But I think that's just like we were talking a little earlier, the salary cap could get complicated if you try to add a guy. I think Booker has worked his ass off to fit. I don't think he's a standard fit, but I think that he showed you enough this year with his effort, with his really buying into a more power style that has, he's found ways to make that work. I'd be hard pressed to say you'd move on from him or try to replace him. I think Gervon Dexter is a guy who can fit. I don't think he's the clearest fit. I think Gervon Dexter is a nose tackle. I think that they might ask him to add mass this offseason to really become a nose tackle in this scheme, because he does have the power and the mass to two gap. He does have the power and the mass, in my opinion, to really hold the point. He's just a hard human being to move. That's his biggest asset. And that kind of fits what I think that Dennis Allen wants in his nose tackles. It doesn't fit what he wants with his pass rushing defensive tackles. And that's where I think there's disconnect with, like, I don't think he's ever going to be good at what Dennis Allen wants him to be good at as a pass rusher. So it's kind of gray area for him. Grady Jarrett, he was brought here for a reason. I don't think you can really get rid of him with his salary situation anyways. I think Andrew Billings is gone. I think Dom Robb is really interesting because they got more development out of Dom Robb this year than Eberflus had in 3 years, which is telling about what the staff was like previously. I think Chris Williams is an interesting name because I really do think Chris Williams fits what Dennis Allen wants as a defensive coach. It's a question of whether he's good enough to really buy into developing him. At linebacker, I think you are going to have outside maybe DeMarco Jackson, it's going to be a completely new room. I don't think Tremaine Edmonds is back. I think he is a salary cap wise an easy casualty, and because he has like no dead money or very little dead money, and I don't really think that I think Dennis Allen wants smart, fast, instinctive linebackers. And I think Tremaine Edmonds fits maybe 1.5 of those three things. I think TJ Edwards is probably gone, which that's going to be they're probably going to have to eat salary on that, a good chunk, because they extended him prior to this year. But I just don't think he's fast enough. I think he's just too slow out there. Mental aspect, he brings a lot to the table, but from a speed aspect, I mean, there's an argument the Bears were better with DeMarco Jackson on the field because he just brings real speed. So I think DeMarco Jackson, maybe Amen Ogbongbemiga, just from a special team standpoint, he might be back, but I think you're seeing in the starting linebacker aspect, I think you're going to see a lot of turnover there.
They did draft a linebacker in the 4th round who keeps being a healthy scratch, so I don't know what his future is.
That's interesting. I really have no expectation for Hippolyte, but maybe an offseason NFL development will go a long way. You never know, but I'm not expecting much either. At corner, I mean, I think you're bringing Jalen Johnson back unless you use him as a trade chip, which I would think his trade value is probably pretty low right now. But at the same time, he's a 26-year-old former All-Pro corner. Those guys don't exactly grow on trees. I think you might be – he's never been a guy who, like, speed has never been his calling card. So that's where it gets
Yeah.
tough with him, because 27, 28, like that is where you start to say, like, maybe he might lose a step in speed. I do think his speed issues this year were much more derived from injury than physical ability. But who am I to say that? That's just an assumption. I would assume that Nahshon Wright's gone in free agency. Tyreek Stevens is going to be really interesting, because I don't know how much they like him. It became hard to gauge how much they really feel like Tyreek can be a starter you can rely on, because he didn't play that much down the stretch. Kyler, I think you just paid Kyler. Kyler needs to be there, but I would expect them to draft a nickel corner, just because I don't know that you can count on Kyler after the year he had with how injured he was. So I would expect them to bring back CJ GJ, bring in a nickel in the draft, like mid to late round, because you can find late round nickels who are pretty successful in the NFL, and then just have kind of that. You can go to CJ if you need to. You can go to the rookie if you need to, but ideally Kyler is your starter. I think that's the way you try to attack that. And at safety, I think Brisker is going to be gone. I would think you bring Byard back, just because he's a strong leader and he really hasn't fallen off. So he continues to make plays. And I would think that you're looking at a rookie safety, like CJ across from him, and you're probably trying to draft a safety somewhere as well to kind of just shore that up. I expect them to have a lot of defensive backs, though.
Yeah. I mean, you're basically getting a new one in Frazier too, because he didn't play at all. We don't know what their plan is for him. He's just an outside corner, or if they plan to transition him to safety. I don't know, because I'm not sure what they're going to do with him.
I mean, I do think he is to a T, he is a Dennis Allen corner.
Okay.
Like tall, long, he's got some speed. Like he is, but like Nahshon Wright is a very clear Dennis Allen corner, right? Like he likes length and height and guys who can run vertical like that. That kind of fits what Frazier, Zay Frazier is as well. But I would expect them to bring in a few mid to late round defensive backs to try to compete this thing and close it out. And it'll be interesting to see how they think of Terrell Smith too, because Terrell Smith really wasn't a fit for Dennis Allen's scheme, in my opinion. But he's still on the roster and he's still cheap. So I'm not sure what that's going to mean going forward.
Shout out to Q for already being in off-season mode that quick.
That was awesome, Q.
He went through the whole defense.
Well done, sir.
No pause, nothing. Bravo.
It never stops, Sonny. The brain never stops thinking about it. Let's see. One more comment here. Mock drafts didn't start in November for Bears fans this year. It's a good feeling, isn't it? It's nice.
Yeah.
But gentlemen, any final thoughts on the Bears season, on their playoff run here, on the loss today that you want to put out there before we close this thing out?
Not so much. I think I opened with my thought. Again, it's a bummer, and nobody is looking forward to not having a game to watch, next weekend. But the future's bright, and again, Caleb did it for seemingly every single week. I get a text message for did you see that throw? That's the best throw I've ever seen. And then he follows it up the following week with another one. And so, now that we have this marriage between Ben and Caleb moving forward, I know we have flaws on this roster, but Ryan Poles had a really solid draft this past offseason. Maybe he can nail one more draft. And you know what? And if he does nail that one more draft, then we should be right back here next year. Well, hopefully a little more smiley, of course, and talking about another game that we've got to preview for the conference finals. But it's just nice that it's not hope as much anymore. Now I feel like, again, your title was perfect, marking the end of the beginning. I think moving forward, we can have an expectation of, hey, we're going to be good. How good are we going to be? And as a Bears fan, usually the last podcast of the season is more, as the gentleman in the comments said, looking forward to the draft. What can we do to make the playoffs next year? The playoffs is a baseline next year. We got to move on beyond that line of thinking now.
Samir, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's nice to go into an off season with some continuity. last couple off seasons, it's like, oh, okay, well, Getsy was the problem. Now we got a new coordinator. What does this guy look like, right? And then it's like, oh, Eberflus is gone. Now let's get a new coach. What does that look like? It's like, okay, we're not going to replace any coaches. We're basically bringing back the same offense. There's just continuity, and it's exciting to see, like, okay, now we got year 2 of the same pieces in place. How's that going to be different, right? What are the tweaks we're going to make? Are we going to open up the playbook? Are they going to like put more on his plate? Is the offense going to look different? What are we going to do? And that's exciting. I mean, now they're talking about maybe Bears coaches could get poached after next year, right? Like that doesn't really happen to us that often. So that's another thing that means you're doing something well. So great season, exceeded my expectations. Like Sunny had mentioned, my goals here were, is Ben the right guy? Is Caleb the right guy? Because if you get those two things, everything else is easier to fix, and I think that they show that, yes, this is a good fit. And so I'm excited about next year.
Yeah, I think for my final thought, there's some discussion in the comments about Dennis Allen, and like I'm a huge Dennis Allen fan, right? Like my final takeaway from this is similar to something else that Jay and I threw in here of that that the Bears defense led the league in takeaways with a roster that I think had no business doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And that means a ton to me. Right? They found ways to be effective on defense despite starting Nashawn Wright to start the year, missing Jalen Johnson for over half the year. Like their cornerback room was utterly decimated. They were starting guys off the freaking street. Like Nick McLeod and like there was at least one game where it was like Nashawn Wright, Nick McLeod, and some other guy you've never heard of starting at corner. It's like they got takeaways in that game. That says a ton to me about the quality of defense coordinator. Also says something about the quality of quarterbacks they played. But at the same time, they were coached to succeed, and they found ways to succeed. I am really excited to see what Dennis Allen can do over the next year or two with this defense as he gets more of his guys in there and more of guys who really fit the model of what he wants to do and guys experienced in what he likes to do and how he likes to do it. We saw growth from multiple players across this defense this year, just from week 1 to the end of the year, of their understanding of the scheme and how to work within it. So I think like you'd be insane to move on from Dennis Allen right now. He is a highly proven defense coordinator in this league who's done it for a long, long time. It's only getting better from here, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. And like Sunny mentioned, Poles killed this draft, right? You got Monungai and Loveland and Burden, and it sucks for Ozzie that he got hurt, but like going into year 2, just all the more better, right? It's a young team at the important position. So,
yeah. But gentlemen, why don't we close this thing out with a good old bear down, and we will be back at some point in the offseason to talk to you guys more.
I do want to let all the viewers know the content doesn't stop here at Bears on Tap, especially with Q and Ron. They do fantastic work previewing that draft, so don't feel like you need to tune out until next season. But gentlemen, it's a bummer, but there's a lot to look forward to. So bear down.
Bear down.
Bear down.